Friends, welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video lecture, we are going to answer questions based on altimetry. So altimetry based questions, altimeter based questions. But this lecture won't have questions or numerical questions as such. I have solved plenty of numerical questions based on altimetry from Oxford Meteorology book, RK Bali navigation book, and uploaded them to my YouTube channel. If you want to practice them, practice that questions, do watch those video lectures. In this video lecture, I have selected out or singled out some theoretical questions related to altimetry. So let's check them. So first, what is the procedure for setting the altimeter when assigned an IFR altitude of 18,000 feet or higher on a direct flight off airways? So off airways means what? Now let's see. See here you can see there are many Victor airways in black color. Okay. So let's say now let's take any two intersections here for the purpose of this understanding. So now let's say you are at this position. Okay. You are at this position and you want to go to you want to fly to this intersection named Cooks. Okay, over here. Now, there are two ways you can go. You can directly fly from this point to this point directly without flying or without following any particular airway, or you can fly this airway that is Victor 227 like this, then make a left turn, fly this airway and follow this air, make a left turn, follow this airway or Victor airway 173 and come down to Cooks. Okay, so when you fly off airway, that means you're not following a particular airway, you just fly a direct track to Cooks. So in that case, so that is what they have written on a direct flight off airways. Now, what is the procedure for setting altimeter when you have been given an IFR altitude, let's say 19,000 feet, 20,000 feet, above 18,000 feet? So how will you set your altimeter? What will you set in your altimeter setting window? Now we all know that starting from 18,000 feet from 18,000 feet class A airspace begins. Okay, in USA. So and many countries also depending on local regulations. But 18,000 feet definitely 18,000 feet and above you will find class A airspace. Now whenever you fly in class A airspace, you are going to fly flight levels, and you get flight levels when you and to fly in order to fly a flight level you must have 29.92 inches mercury or 1013 millibars set in your altimeter setting window or Boltzmann window, right? Now this question has asked us at what point will you set 2992 inches in your altimeter setting window. So option A is set the altimeter to 2992 inches mercury before takeoff. Set the altimeter to the current altimeter setting until reaching the assigned altitude. Then set to 2992 inches mercury. Set the altimeter to the current reported altimeter setting during the climb, and when you reach 18,000 feet, you change it into 29.92 inches mercury. So correct option is option number Charlie. Okay. Set the altimeter to 2992 before, just even before takeoff, that is wrong. At the time of takeoff, you normally set QNH, QFE, okay, depending on what procedure is followed at your airport. Set the altimeter to the current altimeter setting. It's not any, you cannot set any altimeter setting existing around. You have to set that altimeter setting which is reported to you, given to you by any ATC station. Okay. So set the altimeter to the current reported setting and then change it into 29.92 after 18,000 feet at and beyond. So option C is the most appropriate, most correct option. Question 2. En route at flight level 290. Okay, you are cruising at flight level 290. Altimeter is set correctly, but not reset to the local altimeter setting of 30.57 inches of mercury during descent. If the field elevation is 650 feet and the altimeter is functioning properly, what is the approximate indication upon landing? Now look, you're flying at flight level 290. So when you're flying at flight level 290, that means the altimeter setting window has 29.92 inches of mercury in it. At the time of descent, when you cross transition altitude, you must change this 2992 inches mercury into 30.57 inches of mercury. Okay, to local altimeter setting. If you don't do that, the altimeter will give you indication with respect to 29.92 inches of mercury only. See, I will explain to you. Let's say this is your altimeter setting window. Altimeter, this is your altimeter setting window. Now in this altimeter setting window, you can put QNH setting. When you put QNH pressure setting, you will get your vertical distance, which is nothing but altitude measured from mean sea level. When you put QFE in this altimeter setting window, you will get your vertical distance, that is height from aerodrome or airport surface level. If you put standard pressure setting 1013 or 29.92, you will get your vertical distance measured from what? From that is standard pressure setting datum, that is ISA mean sea level. Okay, ISA mean sea level, ISA level datum. Okay, so depending on what pressure setting you put, you will get corresponding vertical distance from corresponding datum, right? So we will take one more illustration. Let's say this is your airport. Now atmospheric pressure existing at airport is called QFE. Next, this is the elevation of airport. Elevation is measured from mean sea level. So now when aerodrome level pressure, that is QFE, is reduced to mean sea level, okay, or converted to mean sea level using this elevation, you get QNH, atmospheric pressure at mean sea level. Then let's say we have a standard ISA datum, ISA mean sea level, which is standard pressure setting 1013. Now we will take three aeroplanes. One. Now this there are three aeroplanes. All three are at same level, as you can see. Now this aeroplane number one, aeroplane number two, aeroplane number three. Aeroplane number one has set QFE in its altimeter setting window. Aeroplane number two has set QNH in its altimeter setting window. And aeroplane number three has set standard pressure setting 1013 in its altimeter setting window. Now, depending on the pressure setting you put, you will get your vertical distance measured from that particular datum. So, if you have QFE in your altimeter window, your vertical distance will be measured from QFE datum. Will be measured from QFE datum. If you have QNH, vertical distance will be measured from QNH datum. If you have standard pressure setting, vertical distance will be measured from standard pressure setting data. So this is the fundamental concept of altimetry. I have I have gone into details more details in my specific altimetry playlist, where I have explained altimetry errors as well. I have explained this concept of altimetry also. So do watch that lectures also, very fruitful. Now coming back to this, if now there is an airport. Okay, there is an airport. whose elevation is 650 feet from mean sea level. Okay, and now the difference between 30.57 pressure difference between 30.57 inches mercury and 29.92 inches mercury is how much? Is 0.65 inches mercury. Now 1 inch of mercury is equal to 1000 feet. So 0.65 inches mercury will be equal to how many thousand feet? Cross multiplication will give you 650 feet. Okay. So that means your pressure at mean sea level is 30.57. Pressure at aerodrome is 299.92. Correct? Okay, because so which is standard pressure setting only. So luckily at this airport, QFE and standard pressure setting are equal. Okay. Now the difference between this pressure values is equal to what? 0.65. That is equivalent to a height of 650 feet, vertical distance of 650 feet. So we have found that so from this we come to know that if this is also 650 feet elevation, that means QNH is 30.57. 29.92 pressure exists at the airport. Now, what will your altimeter show or indicate upon landing? So, when aircraft lands from flight level 290 on the airport, the altimeter will indicate vertical distance from the datum set in the altimeter setting window. Now here the datum set by the pilot is 29.92. He hasn't changed that to a new setting of 30.57. He should have done that, but he haven't done that. So based on this setting, he will get what indication? He will get 0 feet, because when you are at the airport and you have the pressure, the airport pressure in your altimeter setting window, that is 29.92. So vertical distance will be reported 0, meaning sea level. 29.92 is nothing but ISA sea level. So indication shown by the altimeter after landing will be sea level indication or 0 feet. So remember that if pilot changes this altimeter setting to a new setting of 30.57, indication will be 650 feet. Okay, in that case, indication will be measured from QNH datum 30.57 datum. Okay, so this is how you do it. Next, question 3. While you are flying at flight level 250, you hear ATC give an altimeter setting of 28.92 inches mercury. At what pressure altitude are you flying? So it's a tricky question but very simple. So what is pressure altitude? Pressure altitude is nothing but the altitude indicated by your altimeter when you put 29.92 inches of mercury. So pressure altitude is the altitude indicated by altimeter when you set 29.92 inches mercury or or 1013 millibars in your altimeter setting window, right? So now when you're flying at flight level 250, you already have 29.92 inches mercury set in your altimeter window or 1013 millibar. So in order to find out pressure altitude, you need not change anything because you already have 29.92 inches mercury in your altimeter setting window. So what will be the pressure altitude? It will be the same, flight level 250 or pressure altitude 25,000 feet. So good question. Next. Question 4. How can you obtain pressure altitude on flights below 18,000 feet? Okay, so pressure altitude. Again, what is the definition? Pressure altitude is that altitude indicated by your altimeter when you set 29.92 inches mercury in your altimeter setting window. So if you're flying below 18,000 feet, where most of the times you fly at QNH or at local atmospheric settings, if you want to find out pressure altitude, just set 29.92 in your altimeter setting window, and you will get pressure altitude indicated to you. So set your altimeter to 29.92 inches mercury. Use your computer to change indicated altitude to pressure altitude. Contact FFS station and ask for it. So correct option will be option A. Not all FSS station, flight service station, give you pressure altitude information. Next, question 5. How can you determine the pressure altitude at an airport without a tower? Very important practical question. Pressure altitude at an airport without a tower or flight service station. So you'll set the altimeter to 29.92 inches and read the altitude indicated. Set the altimeter to the current altimeter setting of a station within 100 miles. Correct this altitude with local temperature. Use your computer and correct the field elevation for temperature. Now, option A is the correct option. Similar question. Why is option Bravo wrong? When you set the altimeter to the current altimeter setting of a station, a nearby station within 100 miles, and correct it for local temperature, you will get density altitude. Okay, you will get density altitude. You will get correction. You will get true altitude. Okay, so altitude corrected for non-standard temperature, pressure gives you true altitude. Similarly, when you use your computer and correct the field elevation for temperature, that is also not going to give you pressure altitude. So the correct option is option A. Set the altimeter to 29.92 inches mercury and read the altitude indicated. Okay, which altitude is indicated when the altimeter is set to 29.92 inches mercury? Pressure altitude. Pressure altitude corrected for non-standard temperature gives you density altitude. Now there is no such thing as standard altitude, right? There is no such thing as standard altitude, but under ISA conditions, your true altitude will be equal to your pressure altitude under standard ISA conditions. Just remember that. Next, if you are departing from an airport where you can't obtain an altimeter setting, you should set your altimeter. Another very important question. Now, many uncontrolled airports do not have ATC towers or any other station nearby that can provide them with altimeter setting. So, in such a case, you will set the airport elevation in your altimeter. Okay, and when you set that or airport elevation 1000 feet, 900 feet, so as you turn the knob and set that particular elevation of the airport in your altimeter, you will automatically get corresponding pressure indicated in the altimeter setting window. As you turn the outer knob to change altitude or to set elevation of your airport, automatically with that, the pressure setting window, the numbers, the values in the pressure setting window will also change. And when you set a particular elevation, check the pressure value in the pressure setting window. That is the pressure corresponding to that elevation. That is your QNH. Okay, so if you don't have pressure reported to you directly, do the reverse. Okay, you set elevation. When you get pressure reported to you, you set the pressure, then you get to know the elevation. When you do not have the pressure, set the elevation, and then get to know or find out local pressure. Question number 8. Very important. How should you pre-flight check the altimeter prior to an IFR flight? Set the altimeter to 29.92 with current temperature and the altimeter indication. Determine the true altitude to compare with field elevation. Set the altimeter with 2992 and then the current setting. The change in altitude should correspond to the change in setting. Set the altimeter to the current altimeter setting given by ATC. The indication should be within 75 feet of the actual elevation. So correct option is option Charlie. Let's say the elevation of your airport is 1000 feet. elevation of your airport is 1000 feet. It will be depicted on your airport diagrams, on your the various departure charts, arrival charts, instrument approaches chart. Now, when you set your altimeter setting to the altimeter setting reported by ATC, you will check the altitude indication, what indication the altimeter gives. If the indication given by the altimeter is within 1000 plus 75 and 1000 minus 75, okay, within these two limits, any value within these two limits, your altimeter is safe. Okay, it is safe to fly with that altimeter. If it exceeds this tolerance limit, above it or below it, you will have to get your altimeter inspected. Okay, so the correct answer is set the altimeter to the current reported setting, and indication should be within 75 feet of the airport elevation. Airport elevation. Okay, next. How does a pilot normally obtain current altimeter setting? Okay, current altimeter setting during IFR flight in class E airspace, class Echo airspace, below 18,000 feet. Okay, so it's an IFR flight. You are flying in controlled airspace and you are below 18,000 feet. So the pilot should contact Air Route Traffic Control Center at least every miles and request the altimeter setting. FFF flight service station along the route broadcast the weather information at 15 minutes past hour. ATC periodically advises the pilot of the proper setting. Now, since it's an IFR flight, the ATC will automatically give you the proper altimeter setting. You need not request the altimeter setting, and FFS station are not actively involved in providing altimeter settings. So Bravo is not fully correct, Alpha is wrong, and Charlie is the right answer. So remember this. With this question, we come to the end of this lecture. I hope you have understood all the 9 questions I have done. You have understood the concept, the explanation, the elaboration. If you have any questions, doubts, let me know in the comment box. I'll happily resolve them. Subscribe to this channel, please. Don't forget to share this video with your friends and like this video lecture. All the best. I'll see you in the next quiz lecture. Don't miss that.